Personal experience, because I have been involved with setting up the digital transformation, or leading the automation and the CLM cycle for my previous two organizations. Basically, what we see most is that the most important thing for all in-house counsels is, depending on the kind of role you're doing, there is a large volume of contracts that you need to deal with across various areas. So everyone looks for like a ready template or a version. So more often than not, what happens is that we mostly have to use template. Many companies have to use templates which are given by vendors. So there is a lack of standardization. There is a lack of clarity in terms of, as an organization, what is it that you need to protect first. And you land up only looking at each contract as a task or an ad hoc basis. You make the changes to that version, you send it back, you close that deal. From a larger process flow point of view, as an organization, what is it that we are doing? How are we looking at these contracts? Different people may have different ways of looking at a contract or different inputs that they give. At the end of the day, it is that standardization at a holistic level that an organization needs. And I think that is one of the so I'm saying, so one of the main things I think as a function that we look at is a bare-boned skeleton template for a particular kind of contract, which then the team will obviously be able to work on. So I think, and it's always that. I mean, the genesis of any contract is the draft from a lawyer's point of view. So if a ready template can be provided, or at least, like I said, a skeleton template which you can work on further, that is something which is, I think, a very basic and primary use case. Then comes the next thing is the clause library. What are the standard clauses that one would need in their contract? So we identify certain key clauses which are critical to every contract. Over the period of time, you build those clauses into your clause library, and then it becomes very easy to kind of incorporate those in any fresh template or draft that you're looking at. Having to manually go through 10 different drafts and see which clause best for me, and then having to copy paste it and do a comparison. If there's a tool which could pretty much throw up, say, 4 types of indemnity clauses, and then you could compare and see which one suits your use case the most. So that is one thing. Another thing is, since we mostly work on emails, you would have various versions. So sometimes we mark them as V2 with a V4. So if there's more than one person working on the contract, you don't know which version that person is actually working on. There have been a time, in fact, a couple of times I've faced it, where 2 parallel versions are being worked on, and then you realize that 2 people have been working on 2 different versions, and then you have to sit and manually blend it together. That way, a tool would automatically ensure that everybody who's working on that contract is only working on the last change to the last edited version, which would typically flow from the person who is sending that version. Kind of hygiene check automatically remains. You're not dependent manually on people or on emails. Also, sometimes it may so happen that from an audit perspective, you may need to know how a contract has flown stage to stage. That audit trail also can be maintained in a lifecycle management. Otherwise, it's only the final version which, and then you don't know how the changes evolved or what changes happened over a period of time, which may be useful when you're looking at another similar contract of another. In terms of another problem which I know business faces very often is that they sometimes miss deadlines of contracts from a renewal perspective. And then when they come to you saying that we want to renew it, if the date has lapsed, you cannot renew a contract which is already expired. So then you have to go through the whole pain of having to redo it. So then if there is something which could automatically trigger reminders, your contract is going to expire in 10 days time, 2 weeks time, it just becomes easy for everybody who's working on that contract to track it. Then also many times, a simple thing, I mean, what I'm basically telling you, a very simple day-to-day problems which we face is that, for example, many times business doesn't even know which is the right legal person to give a contract to. You keep asking around that, okay, do I give it to this person? Do I give it to that person? So that way, if the tool can map that, within the organization, if the organization gets the chance to be able to input the concerned people or who are going to be the custodians of contracts for say business or this for your business, then you automatically send the request to that person and it becomes seamless. You're not wasting time in trying to figure out which is the right person to go to. And also something like a dashboard for a reporting manager who has more than 2 or 3 reportees to kind of figure out who's working on what, be able to allocate work efficiently, prioritize work, timelines, that kind of thing. So these are some things I feel which could be good use cases. So if you see, I mean, like you said very correctly, BFSI has been at the forefront of digital transformation for our country. But I mean, what we are seeing today is not the result of something which has happened overnight. There has been years and years of work, thought, planning, and execution implementation, which has finally led to this product that we see. One thing I think most importantly is that you have to prioritize process standardization before automation. No, automation. It's all good to say that I want to automate everything and I want everything to work like clockwork. If you take things like the KYC and the Aadhaar, they started working on those things way before we actually got the e-Aadhaar, before we this one KYC, before we got the facility to link your number across. So they first worked on setting a process, and once that process was frozen and you have a watertight process in place which you know is foolproof and going to work, then you automate that process rather than jump into wanting to automate something, without knowing what exactly it is that you want to automate. So that's one very big learning, that while we may want to automate, we need to be very clear as to what is the process flow, what is it that we are trying to automate. Automation only makes our life simpler. Automation cannot create something from scratch. That creation has to be the responsibility of the legal team to that process. That is one very big thing. You have to choose the tool very correctly. Something depending on how your organization functions. Like BFSI also has chosen the right kind of tools to work with, depending on which are the sectors that they want to focus on or how do they want to mold their operations. So for a legal function, a tool needs to be one which can integrate well with finance, procurement, HR, the key functions which essentially deal with contracts or which have a key interface with legal functioning and legal automation. Then you need to use data as a strategic asset. Track your legal KPIs. You need to know what is it that you can automate and what is it that you can't automate. That's another very big thing. Not everything can be automated. There has to be some manual intervention, something which you need to do, which a mere automatic process cannot. So you need to identify what is low risk, medium risk, and high risk. Apply your automation accordingly, such that you free up your time from mundane activities which are low risk and be able to focus or utilize that time better on prioritizing it on high risk things which would require essential human intervention. Also, since a tech tool is something which not only legal exclusively as a function uses, because especially from an in-house counsel perspective, we are only supporting business. Our business enables, we are support functions. So whatever asks, demands, work, they all come, it emanates from the business. Having that cross-functional team or having that kind of an agile cross-functional workflow in place such that all the teams integrate seamlessly, it doesn't become the responsibility of only one team. So that is also something which is a big learning from BFSI, because now if you see, we started with say the KYC, then we moved to the Aadhaar, now we have moved to something. So the entire process, and it's just not one team. There are multiple teams together which are working to give you as a customer that entire seamless experience. And also it's very important to choose legal technology which is easy to access and use, because at the end of the day, we are not an IT function. We are not a tech. I mean, our core is not tech, is a tool. Like you said, it's a tool to make our life easier. So only something which people will want to use and find it easy to use, which they use to make their life easier. Otherwise, you'll be like, oh my God, I would much rather do this manually, because figuring out how this works is wasting more of my time. So I think challenge, because I personally have taken demos or sat in on, things for at least 8 or 10 CLM tools which are presently in the market. And I feel some of them are, I just feel that I'll have to spend a lot of time in learning how to use this before I can actually start using it. Something which will be user-friendly, which will be easy to use. Not only for someone like me, but people who have various levels of technical superiority or, technical comfort. It should be something which is catered, which is not something which only an IT person would anyway be able to use a highly complicated tool. Something which even someone who has limited or working technical knowledge be able to use. So that's what I feel. 2 or 3 things. Firstly, I think you must have a clear vision and a business case. Why do you need automation? Maybe not all companies may have the kind of work which requires that level of automation, because there are tools in the market, and just because everybody is automating, it doesn't mean that you have to also automate in that manner. I think it's very important to identify what is your business case, to have a clear vision as to, as a legal function in your organization, what are you contributing, what are you doing, in order to be able to know which is the right tool to select. Then it's very important to establish a legal ops team or a legal role which will act as a conduit or bridge between legal, IT and business, who actually is the custodian or managing this tool. Because it's just not about using the tool, it's also about ensuring that the tool is seamlessly making multiple divisions' lives easier. It's just not one person or 3 or 4 people or the 10 people who are using the tool. Central SPOC, or that point of contact within a legal team, is very important. Choose tools that can be easily integrated into your IT systems. Something which is user friendly. Because sometimes, if it's something which has too many snags or issues, then every time you're trying to do something, when you come across a roadblock, gradually people start losing interest in the tool or don't want to use the tool. So choosing that is also very important. Then you must have meters to check efficiency, in the sense that, if say I know that most of my work is high volume load, I need to see whether the tool is helping me reduce my time in handling that low risk work. If I see that my work is more high risk, say low volume, then do I need a tool which is a little more scientific, which is a little more detailed, which can actually help me in making my life easier, or is it that I can do without a tool, or I can implement something else? Also very important is internal stakeholder training. So that is something which I feel the legal team has to drive, because at the end of the day, businesses typically would depend on legal to churn out the final version of the contract and to be the custodian of that contract. So when they have to use a tool, or they have to they have to see changes that we've made, or they have to also put their comments. Sometimes people are not conversant with how to do that because they're not adequately trained. If you want them to also help you out in making your life easier, they also need to know what they need to do. So that level of internal training is very important, which I'm guessing any CLM vendor would also conduct a series. From a legal department standpoint, internally also you have to be the one to kind of handhold and help your stakeholders in making it easy for them to use the tool. So that's some of a few things.